We have two things today: an EAP712 implementation problem that came up recently, and an update on the wallet testing framework by myself and Nikki. So I'll hand it off to Matthias, and let's get going.
Cool. So first of all, thanks Sam for inviting us to discuss this issue that we found like 2 or 3 months ago. It's been quite a challenge to coordinate the disclosure and also to let every involved party know about the issue. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about myself like very quick. I'm coming from the Web2 security area. I was previously a consultant at another consultancy company. I'm from CoinSpec. Um, there we've been working in the blockchain security since 2014, and yeah, we do every kind of security audits, from smart contracts to off-chain code. Um, okay, that being said, so this issue I'm going to present today is part of a bigger research project that we've been working on at CoinSpec. A couple of us. Not this is not a full-time project. We've been doing that in our free time, mostly on or when we are off audits or another consultancy projects. So we realized that the wallet security field was very little explored, not as much as smart contracts, for instance. And the approach we took was first starting as a black box testing, like testing all of the user experience of the wallet to assess whether that user experience was secure. And now we are focusing more towards the source code. Of course, whenever we have source code, there aren't many source code wallets out there, but still most of them share code base and share the same architectural patterns. So yeah, that's it. And okay, so about the goal of this research project is to overall to contribute to a better uh, and more secure user experience. Our goal is to uh, assess multiple wallets at once and try to discover issues, multiple issues affecting more than one wallet, which is the case of this EIP712 issue. And then, like aside from doing the research, I will also later comment about our upcoming work or our upcoming ideas for this, high level wallets research project. So, what's the EIP 712 issue about? I don't know if you guys were able to read about the issue. The thing is that the problem itself was not as impactful as we are used to. Actually, this is a lower medium security issue. I mean, the risk. I mean, but the what's interesting here is that it affected more than 40 wallet vendors. I think that there were just 3 or 4 that were actually validating this problem. One of them was MetaMask, which we most of the time consider as a security standard because they do a pretty good job at it. So the problem here is that many wallets didn't validate the chain ID that 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 that's in the EIP 712 domain. Um, and that so the wallet didn't validate that the chain ID of this domain was the same chain ID of the chain that the user selected in the wallet. So I'm giving a practical example. Let's say I'm using my wallet in the Ethereum network, and a malicious app could have signed an EIP712 object for, let's say, the Arbitrum chain. And unless I'm an expert at chain IDs, I couldn't have noticed, this problem, and could have signed this EIP712 object, which could have allowed the attacker to, to obtain, let's say, a permit for another chain than the one I selected. Um, so yeah, the relevance of this issue is more about the number of vendors that were affected more than the issue itself. But that's our goal, to keep finding issues like these that are shared across several wallets. We also found a couple of other issues that were also reported along this journey, also related to EIP712. For instance, some wallets were not displaying the EIP712 object to be signed at all, or we're not displaying the EIP712 domain part, which is, the EIP712 domain has like five different fields. One of them is the chain ID. Then we have the verifying contract. There is a salt and a version, for instance. So some wallets fail to actually display that when asking users for their signature. Okay, so regarding our experience, because this was an experience, I think that it took us like almost 3 months since we started to discover a pattern across different wallets. And this pattern, I mean, starting to see that most of the wallets fail to validate this chain ID. So since we started to discover that pattern until we were finally able to publish the blog post, it was an entire experience. So we realized that many vendors actually host, or I think it was almost a 50% of wallet vendors host bug bounty programs. And but yeah, most of the vendors that host bug bounty programs are the well-established wallets. But the problem we found here is that not, or I'd say most of the vendors, they don't allow the disclosure of bugs. Once you report it, they say, hey, I don't want this bug to be disclosed. But the thing is that here we found that bug in like 39 more other wallets, which is kind of, you know, uh, difficult for us. Then we also found, I don't know, I think that it was for vendors that didn't even have a contact channel that we couldn't reach out to. Some other vendors that we were able to reach out, they didn't get back to us, whether confirming the issue or not giving us any feedback at all. Um, Also, like, while disclosing the issue, then we try to reach a common disclosure date. The thing is that many vendors kept on asking for an extension of the date so that they could publish or I mean deploy their patch. And I think that there are still some vendors that haven't deployed the patch. Um, and also, we found a couple of vendors that said, hey, so since this is a malicious app, then your bug is not in scope. And that's funny because I think that in the threat model of any wallet, you have to consider malicious apps. Um, Otherwise, why are we asking permission to connect to a dApp if it's if we consider it not to be malicious, right? So that was funny. We had a couple of bugs rejected. Um, Also, if you guys want to head to the CoinSpec Twitter profile, you'll see an exploit that we published a few weeks ago for a wallet that they were not willing to, you know, recognize they had a serious bug. So yeah, they were one of the people that didn't want to acknowledge the problems. So I talked about this high level software wallets research project. So what's next? Um, the things that we kept on investigating the multiple wallets. Actually, in the upcoming weeks, I think that we are going to publish another problem that we found related to the transaction simulation in a well-known wallet. So stay tuned. Uh, Give a follow to the CoinSpec profile. Um, okay, so then we are also thinking in publishing a wallet checklist that could be used as a guideline for both wallet builders, security auditors, and even users. Uh, and this checklist was the result of the research that we started because we tried to systematically do an assessment to each and every wallet. So this checklist was a sort of an internal tool that we are willing to publish and that we think that will come handy for people out there. So if any of you listening to this talk are looking to collaborate with us, we are open to collaborate with people. So ping us, ping me, and we can figure something out. Um, Otherwise, also stay tuned for updates. I think that we will should soon be publishing the checklist in the next month. And finally, if there's something that you guys don't have time to investigate or that you'd like to us to investigate about, just please ping us. We are happy to do so in our free time. And I think that that's it. I hope to have been pretty quick and not so boring. So thanks, Guy, for listening to this talk. I know if any of you have any questions.
Thanks so much for sharing. That's awesome. I'm quite surprised that wallets don't show the 712 domain. I feel like that's like really important information to display. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that we found. I think that it were like six wallets that didn't show the object at all, and six other wallets that were not showing the domain part, which is less of a problem, but it is still a problem, right? Because an attacker can just sign whatever they want, and the user won't know. That's funny.
Yeah, exactly. So, this checklist, is that going to be something that might be automatable
Uh,
or some pieces of it?
it's not meant to be automatable because there are a bunch of code source code checks, and but I think that's something that it could be done with a certain work. But at the very beginning, it was meant to be more of a, let's say, an OWASP uh, checklist for software wallets. But we are open to any ideas and suggestions, of course.
So the reason I ask is kind of a transition into the next topic. We're building a testing framework, and if any parts of that checklist are automatable, like, you know, the wallet should display the 712 domain, that would be a good a good test to add to our framework. So I'd love to collaborate with you on that.
Okay, so yeah, let me. let me scan again our checklist and see what could be automatable with a decent amount of work. I mean, without being too hard.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So yeah, cool, Sam. So thanks for the space. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah,
Uh,
thanks for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So next up, I guess, is me and Nikki, if they're here. We've been working on the wallet test framework that you've hopefully heard a little bit about, and if you haven't, go look it up. It's a collection of tests that we're building to share as like a common good between wallets to ensure like a basic level of consistency and quality. We have our first half dozen tests written right now, and yeah, we're getting ready to ramp it up and build some UI automation, and yeah. So far, we've been using Frame and MetaMask as our test wallets. If you like to try out your own wallets, there are instructions on the GitHub repo, and I'll post a link to that after. I have a little demo that I can hopefully show. We'll see if it works. Yeah, so I'll just hop right into that. Okay. All right, so is that working?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is what it looks like today. It's a small NPM or Node.js server that proxies connections, and yeah, I'll just run you through it. So the first step is that it adds a fake Ethereum chain that connects to Ganache running inside the browser. We're using Mocha as our testing framework, and it makes these nice little HTML summaries. So everything that's going on right now is actually testing against the simulated blockchain and proxying through the Node.js backend server. So far, we don't have any UI automation tests. That's going to be coming a little bit later. So far, we have just some tests for basic RPC endpoints, like getting the chain ID, getting transactions, and that your balance updates after you receive money. So nothing too fancy or complicated right now, but yeah, we're getting there, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have a solid testing framework that wallets can choose to adopt or not, and hopefully we get some contributions from everybody. Are any of these going to fail? I want to show a failed test. No. All right. Cool. So yeah, that's about it for that. Um, does anybody else have anything they'd like to demo? Any questions? Any conversation topics?
I have a question about that. You said that you are having your own blockchain running there, but is the Ether or the MetaMask connected to your RPC server there, or how does it work?
Yes, exactly. So MetaMask adds a new like we call wallet add Ethereum chain with like a unique URL that gets proxied over WebSockets back to the same browser, and it's connected to Ganache running in that browser instance.
Okay. Well, I think it sounds a bit bad idea that you are adding the chain and the MetaMask as accepting that. I feel that that shouldn't be kind of that shouldn't work like that in the future. So maybe the user should add it themselves, but I guess there could be instructions for that as well.
Yeah. So um, once we get some UI automation working, so the design is kind of going to have a piece of glue that's unique to each wallet that knows how to click buttons and things in the UI. Um, and that is how we're going to add the wallets in the future. As I'm sure most of you are aware, I have EAP 5139, which is all about getting rid of wallet at Ethereum chain. But for now, this works really well. But it is something we're planning on getting rid of.
So at the moment, it doesn't work if you don't support that feature.
Exactly, yeah. But that's probably going to be the first piece of automation we do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's totally an empty slot today. Love to have you demo whatever you've been working on. Any other questions on wallet test framework? If not, we'll move on to Victor. Great. So, floor is yours, Victor.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Victor, and I also go by XINBNLB if you encounter me on GitHub or Ethereum Musician. I'd like to demonstrate to you a new update on the ERC ref. I came to this group a few weeks ago demonstrating the general concept of ERC ref. Basically, we want to build a repository for people to share the reference implementation to ERCs. So authors, contributors, developers, feel free to come over. And today I just want to share one of the new thing that we called ERC20 token with fees. So I think it's in my interest the wallet group, because a lot of you operate in helping people sign transactions to transact. And so there's a general concept that usually an ERC20 transfer doesn't incur a commission. Some of the community members in the industry has started to discuss whether it's possible to, or should it be a new norm to incur fees. So in that case, for example, USDT as one of the biggest, one of the top three stable coins has a in-place fee default to 0 right now set up so that they can in the future change that parameter to charge fees whenever a transaction happens. So a reference implementation has been provided in this particular smart contract where you can deploy and test with your wallet. Whenever there is a transaction, there is a fees that is incurred. And then to see if it works, there's a test we also wrote to just demonstrate how it works and what is to be expected. And so, yeah, this is what I want to show. And in general, the ERC ref contracts is we want to build a library so that you can not only share your smart contract, but also learn from others. And then ultimately, we want to build something similar to OpenZeppelin, but more bleeding edge, right? For this ERC that's even in draft, or for ERCs that's mature, but you have new ideas like this. This is hopefully a place for you to kind of check out and come to contribute. So contributions are welcomed. Check out ERC ref in the GitHub or our website. And that's it. Thank you. All wallet call meeting. Back to you, Sam.
Awesome, thanks. Anybody have any questions on ERC ref? Cool. So that wraps up, I think, the scheduled discussion for today. Yeah, so unless anybody else has something they want to demo or talk about, we can wrap it up early today. No, Adam?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly shill the human readable transactions working group put together by Khan from Sourceify. We just had our kickoff meeting this morning. It seems relevant to probably most of y'all. If you work on a wallet, you got to display transactions to users somehow. So just linked the Twitter posts in the chat and also in the general channel.
I do have one thing. We're trying to get a standard into the various clients for ETH multi-call. This is basically the same as this ETH call, except for you can do multiple transactions and they'll all build off of each other the same way transactions in the block build off each other. And you can also do things like telling the underlying execution engine what the block timestamp is, what block number it is, things like that. The idea here is that this solves a number of different problems. for both DApp developers and tool developers and integration, people doing integrations, people doing, it also allows for people to do MEV without needing to be experts in scripting, because you can just ask your node. Anyways, drop the link in the chat. I strongly encourage any wallet developers to give it a look, because it may impact how your wallet works, but more importantly, it may allow you open new doors for your wallet. And so we'd love to get more feedback and support from the wallet community on it.
Have you posted a link in the proposals channel?
I can.
Thank you. Victor?
Thank you, Mikhail. Good to meet you here. A question for this is that, does it mean that the people will no longer or less likely to need to use any on-chain smart contract bundler? Because the EVM will support that, the execution will support that out of box, so you can make a call directly?
This is only for off-chain calls, meaning like ETH call type stuff. This is not for forcing transaction ordering, which is a separate thing. So like if you want to make sure that 3 transactions land in a row on chain, this will not help you with that, directly at least. This is more if you want to say, okay, what happens if I do X, then Y, then Z, and I want to see the feedback. So the way, for example, the way we're using it in our tool is we're making it so people can utilize Ethereum-based applications like Uniswap and Curve and whatever, and they can kind of go through the process of using that app, but without actually committing anything to the chain. But they'll see the chain as though they had done all those things. That's how we're using it. It can be used in a bunch of different ways, but this is all just for the ETH call side of things, not for the send transaction side of things.
Oh, I see. Got it. Yeah. Thanks. That's very helpful. Does if I, just to make sure that I understand correctly, it also means that it's just for local check, and then wait a minute. So does it require, if at any case it's being used to send in transaction, it also does not ensure the atomicity of those transactions together?
Once you take them to the blockchain, correct, it does not ensure any autonomous. I also struggle with that word. It does not have any. It doesn't give you any guarantees on that front once you go to the chain. This is purely for simulation. So a perfect example of this is if you go to Uniswap, you need to do an approval before you can send, right? And so if you wanted to see what happens, okay, if I do an approval, then I do a send in Uniswap, you can do that by doing a multi-call of approve, then send. So you stack them together, you send them both as one thing, and the result you get is the send works. So normally, you can't simulate the send or the transfer, the token transfer, until after you do the approval. And the approval needs to show up on chain before the blockchain, like the client they're using, will actually let you do the transfer. With something like multi-call, we can now do the approval and transfer in simulation mode, and so we can now, prep multiple transactions in a row. And so Uniswap could, for example, if this got standardized, instead of having approve and then send be 2 separate steps, they could potentially, queue them both up and then and then get them both ready and then submit them at the same time. They still have no guarantee of ordering other than nonces, so you could have something show up between them in terms of the transaction order. But due to nonsing, the approval will show up first and the transfer will show up second, but you can send them both to the chain at the same time theoretically. And so the hope is that this will allow, better, again, the thing we're using for and the things on my mind is simulations. And so just letting people see what's going to happen before it happens. Right now, you basically, here's a simple example. I was using a tool the other day that lets someone invoice me, and then I can pay that invoice. And so the contract that I was calling wanted me to do an approval before I did a transfer. And the approval was for more than what I expected. Like, it was a bigger number, and I wanted to understand what was going on there. And so I was able to simulate the approval, and then the application saw, oh, the approval's done. And so then I was able to simulate the transfer, and then I could see, okay, the actual transfer is transferring the correct amount. And then I could simulate a revoke of the approval at the end to make sure I ended up good and everything went smoothly. There's still a little bit of risk because someone could, in theory, sneak a transaction in between 2 of them on chain. But in this case, it was enough for me to be satisfied that everything was up and up. And our hope is that we can provide that sort of flow to more users where they can kind of queue things up, see what the final outcome is, and then submit it all at once. And then maybe at some point in the future, we'll work on standardizing something in the consensus layer where it actually guarantees autonomicity between a stack of transactions, but that's probably pretty far off.
Yeah, thank you for your explanation. That's very, very helpful. And I think it's a lot of value to allow people to see the outcome of a set of transactions going in together and what the final outcome is. What I have if there's if I were playing the devil's advocate a little bit, the only thing is that usually people will think end user will think that is either go through or not. In this particular case, because it's multi-call, there is a complex possibility that some of them will fail in the middle, and then therefore, unless the consensus team provides consensus side provides atomicity. Otherwise, we'll need the user to be really technical savvy to really understand that simulations only tell what a good day look like. And in a bad day, it can be a lot of variants of how different kinds of weird, awkward situation it could occur in. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
And I love this idea.
So solving the UX problem around making sure users understand that this is just for simulation and different things can happen on chain is definitely a challenge we need to solve. At the moment, we don't have a way of actually submitting the batch. And so at the moment, all you can do is simulate, and you can simulate them all, and then you can go back through and do them all again. We're working on hopefully making it so you can actually submit a batch, but again, that's a little further off for us. But yeah, you are correct that anyone who does use this multi-call definitely needs to be aware that this is just simulation off-chain. Very useful for certain things, but not everything.
Thank you.
It's basically just ETH call, but just way more powerful than that is.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Micah. Anybody else have demos, cool wallet stuff they've been working on? Great. Then I guess we can call it here. Thanks, everybody, for coming out, and we'll see you all in about a month.
See ya.
Nope. Oh.
Does Jitsi not have little reactions so I can wave goodbye?
Yes, raise your hand.
It does. Yeah, if you do the raise your hand thing, it has other ones.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.